Professors of Reddit, what's the funniest thing a student has said about you on RateMyProfessor.com? Not a professor, but there's this work of art one student posted on Kufa's Professor's eyebrows suit the man with a perfection rarely found in nature. They bristle from his forehead with the stubborn arrogance of a bougainvillea hedgerow, defying all attempts to question their inexorable will. Perched on his face like a pair of unusually hairy caterpillars engaged in a passionate kiss, they meet at an angle only slightly less obtuse than the man who wears them. That was beautiful. Not a prof, but this is one of my favorite reviews of my biology professor. I used to like bio, not anymore. I could have cured cancer, but because of prof's name, we'll never know, solidified my major in chemistry. Low-key probably more likely to cure cancer with a major in chemistry than biology. All the biologists I know either play with creatures or with microbes, and they're weird. I'm a biologist, the microbe kind, microbiologist. Formatay, but one of my students who reviewed me write that I was like a cross between Rachel Maddow and Justin Timberlake. I was also friends with a professor who got a review in Japanese. It translated to "Wow, you are delicious." We weren't sure if they were flirting or trying to show off that they actually had learned something. The professor taught Japanese. This was from one of his 101 classes. Like a cross between Rachel Maddow and Justin Timberlake. Dude, Rachel Maddow is a cross between Rachel Maddow and Justin Timberlake. Been teaching for 3 years now, had some decent ones but my best was, your sarcasm can sometimes make you seem like an butthole, but that's okay, we were buttholes first. We are all deuterostomes, first and foremost. One semester I helped an ancient professor with some of her research. She was one of the most disorganized people I've ever met. One of her reviews nails it. I am pretty sure that she was unaware that she is a professor. For that matter, I think she was unaware that she lives in the state of Wisconsin. This sounds like my decrepit English professor from my freshman year at UW Waukesha. One of my professors in air traffic control school was especially strict and ran the simulator for the air traffic control tower. A student wrote in a review, sometimes when he is running the simulator, I wonder who is running heck. I don't want anybody fricking around in air traffic control school. I know a high school teacher who tells all of his students to rate him on RateMyProfessor, but say something squiddy. He has tons of reviews like great class, but I think I saw a tentacle hanging from his desk drawer one day. Plot twist, the teacher is big into hentai. Tay in Calc. Pretty much broke down to 3 different types: good reviews, bad because the class was too hard, or them complaining about my handwriting. Did have one memorable one, something like this: does a great job teaching. I am not a math major and did well enough in his class, but he takes off his wedding ring before class. I'm sure in hopes that he can pick up students. I saw the tan line on his finger. Not married, never have been, and have never worn a ring of any kind. From a friend who was a PhD at the physics department, whose wife teaches math, on his review materials, you are okay, but your wife is hot. I bet she's got the red pepper. Not me, but one of my writing professors would always share her favorite review she'd ever been given. She's a good professor, but I'd be able to focus more if she didn't look like a hobbit. Not a professor, but I always thought I'd get better job reviews if I didn't look like a hobbit. My dad is a professor and is very proud of his RateMyProfessor reviews. His personal favorite that he brags about regularly includes the phrase, "Sometimes I feel like biting him." There is a big difference between a nibble and a chomp though. Used to play pickup games with a young professor during college. My roommate found his RateMyProfessor profile and wrote that although he's a good professor, his shot selection is terrible and really sucks at getting back on defense. The review was funny in the sense it's like the only non-positive review on his page. Doing more research on the guy, he has stellar RMP reviews, made the list of top 300 professors in the country, and now he heads the business department for a Big Ten university. Kobe. My first semester organic chemistry professor came up to me and was laughing about a RateMyProfessor review someone left him. "You taught me that it was okay to be in butthole as long as I know my crap." For some reason, he thought I wrote it as a joke. This was my senior year. He's the head of the chem dept and I was a chem major, so we were buddies at this point. Haha. My organic chemistry professor said he saw a rating of his one time that said something along the lines of cool professor, but he kept drawing shapes all over the board. College professor here. When I was in grad school, my friends and I used to troll each other all the time on RateMyProfessor. A friend of mine wrote one about how I live on a private island with my flock of pet monkeys and have stripper poles in my kitchen. I wrote one for another friend giving an insider tip that if you asked him about his pet lobster he'd give you extra credit. My Calc 3 professor told us on the last day about some of the stuff he has read about himself. The one I remember him talking about most was, he is very oddly shaped and flails his arms about to try and depict 3D shapes. His response was, even though I do flail my arms, I believe I am not oddly shaped. Just look at me. This is 100% math bod right here. I just looked up my best friend who is a college professor. One review included this. He is pretty attractive if you are attracted to beards and Banana Republic. I read that and just about lost it. He has a chili pepper too. So I guess students think he's pretty hot. Mr. X is a beautiful and intelligent human being who inspires all those around him to achieve greatness. There is nothing that compares to the opportunity one has to bask in his magnificent glory. That being said, the sudden changes in facial hair can be somewhat unsettling. Professor X. FTFY. Not a professor, but as a Tay we get semester reviews. I had a student who didn't show up once. On the anonymous review, one student said, I know I'm not passing this class. It's not PMME Duck Fact's fault. My parents wanted me to be a doctor and are paying for my school, so I had to try their way. Since that didn't work out, now I can take classes I actually want. Not a professor, but someone posted a screenshot from my old AP history teacher's RateMyProfessor review. It was something along the lines of 0/10. I fell asleep in his class and he threw a textbook at me. This is definitely something he would have done. 10/10 teacher. One of my professors had several reviews and probably 70% of them were he's really hot for a 75-year-old man. They were not totally incorrect. My dying wish is to get a red pepper on RateMyProfessors.com. We were getting a new teacher for electronic engineering, so naturally I looked him up on RateMyTeacher and I saw these. More like a permanent substitute than a teacher. He has the IQ of room temperature. And yes, we use Celsius like the rest of the world except the Freedom Nation. The Freedom Nation. Not me, like the rest of this thread, but I saw a comment that was along the lines of, I don't wear my seatbelt on the way to this class because I honestly hope I die before I get here. A colleague of mine, currently one of the best dancers in the country, had a student from a beginning class write, for a national champion he sure doesn't dance like one. He can dance when he wants to. There was a particularly difficult class and the teacher got this review. Taking a class from him is like playing Russian roulette with 5 bullets loaded. After taking the class, I would have to agree. Not really funny, but back when I was in 8th grade I had math with this sketchy kid. He hated our teacher, so he made a post on RateMyTeacher about following her after school to her home and blowing her house up. The cops were called in and our whole class was interrogated. Fun experience that was. He must have really bombed that class. I'm not a teacher, but I saw a review going along the lines of, the only thing that deserves degrees in your classroom are the protractors. Got him. Not a professor yet, just a Tay. Every single Tay is the hardest grader ever. My students liked that I baked cookies though. That's the only positive review I got. It was either no response or great cookies. Not really funny, but I looked up my younger brother, CS professor, and one student complained that a particular advanced graduate seminar was really only relevant to graduate students in his particular field. Yeah, not sure what you were expecting there. Mostly I enjoy pointing out that no one has given him a chili pepper. Probably not unexpected given that his students are 90% male and he dresses like a CS professor, but still. It's your job as a brother to give him one and put up a really awkward comment about being able to see how big his dong is through the print of his jeans. Former student, not professor. but I do have a story. One of my professors, who was a good lecturer but also made exams that were almost impossible to do well in, mentioned that his mom found the entry about him after a particularly brutal exam and called him, crying about how mean and everyone was about her son. He said it with a laugh, but once the day was over, his entry was full of fawning kisses comments along the vein of Dr. So-and-so is a great teacher. His mother should be so proud. Personally, I think he was lying through his teeth. One of my favorite professors from college has this awesome teacher. Cool guy and easy to get along with. Pretty sure he smokes some pot. I teach marching band. They were super excited that I would do any exercise outdoors with them. Truth is I need the exercise, and it's good for motivating the slackers. They were a bit terrified of my passion for music. Apparently I have gone on terrifying rants about dead guys and the Pope and stuff, by which they mean I taught them some music history I presume. They hate my favorite drum corps and Mr. Holland's opus. They were mad that I wouldn't let them play at Disneyland, when one of their peers had ruined it the year prior by trying to hook up with a colored girl in the haunted mansion. Also the school tubers suck, which is probably because someone shot one of them with a BB gun. Zach. My brother is a college professor and a bit of a goof. He was reading his reviews on RateMyProfessor.com out loud to me at Thanksgiving or something and found one along the lines of, hot, mumbles a lot, makes stupid faces and fart noises too much. Not something said on RMP, but one of our mutual students recently pointed out to my husband, Professor, that I, also Professor, have a chili pepper, and he does not. My professor had a review that said moves so little in class that a fly died on his head and it didn't fall off until he got up to walk out at the end of the day. My professor, in an attempt to win a contest with one of his buddies, asked that everyone leave him a rating on RMP, with the condition that he doesn't care what they write as long as they say he's super hot, like a fiery chili or whatever. My dad was a prof and his best was from a guy who had missing his final exam. The guy said he walked into my dad's office 40 minutes after the exam ended and pleaded for a chance to take it anyway. Instead of bullshitting an excuse, he decided to be honest and admit he slept through it. Apparently my dad laughed at him, called him an idiot, then let him take it anyway, saying, you remind me of my son. That's right guy, if I hadn't been such a frick up, you would have failed that class. You're welcome. Being honest always works best. My dad was a prof for a number of years for a master's level class. One review was just take Eclear's dad's class at your own peril. He also got a chili pepper and being an upper division computer engineering class it was primarily guys so that was interesting. Could be a colleague or your mom. Not a professor, but my aunt is an English professor and she's married to a bank president. I found out she had been kidnapped in the 80s while looking through her reviews and my dad had to tell me the story. Now it's a great icebreaker. My favorite professor was my intro to geology professor. He was an old man who had been a geologist for over 30 years. Saying he loved rocks was an understatement. Here are 2 real reviews from his RMP. Jim is clearly passionate about 2 things, rocks, and teaching people about rocks. Leave your cell phone in your car, don't show up late, and be prepared to get rocked. Another student goes on to talk about how he has a major man crush on the professor, and countless others talk about how much he rocks. My father is a professor. He got something like looks kind of like and his humor similar to Bill Murray. I guess maybe a little bit. I'm a bit late, but one of my friends is economics professor who wrote an article about the economics of RateMyProfessor. Now there are a bunch of reviews on his page mentioning how lame it was that he wrote an article about the site. Not me. He sounds like Wallace Shawn when he raises his voice. He raises his voice a lot. Wallace Shawn is the inconceivable guy from The Princess Bride. I was referred to as an overlord. For reference, I'm a nerdy, introverted, soft-spoken math professor, so I'm more proud of this than anything. Boring. You will be able to learn, but that's all you will be able to do. Not sure what you were expecting, man. A party? Parade? This should be like a bad tweet skit from TV where the professor sits in front of the class and reads the best reviews from the previous semester. One of my ex-professors taught a Dendrology lab, the scientific study of trees. The review is as follows. Taking this class wasn't accidental. Just show up and study a bit, and you'll ace the class. I bet you love it. You won't regret it. Tree humor. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.